We're all taught that World War I kicked off with a single gunshot, right? The assassination of an archduke. But what if that's not the whole story? What if that gunshot was just the match and the world had been soaked in gasoline for years? Yeah, so let's dive in and uncover the real, explosive story of how an entire continent was just waiting for a spark.
You hear this term thrown around a lot by historians, Europe's powder keg. And it is the perfect metaphor, really, because it's not an exaggeration at all. This was a continent under just immense, invisible pressure. It was wound so tight it was just waiting to blow.
And what's wild is that on the surface, everything looked great. Europe was in the middle of this incredible age of invention, cities were booming, science was making these huge leaps. But underneath all that glitter was a really dark secret. The great powers of Europe were tangled up in this web of paranoia and rivalry. Plain and simple, nobody trusted anybody.
And this really breaks down that paranoia, right? I mean, think about it from their perspective. You've got Britain, this huge naval empire, suddenly getting very nervous about Germany's brand new fleet. Then there's Germany, this industrial powerhouse, basically feeling like, hey, we deserve a seat at the big table. France, still steaming about land they lost to Germany. And Russia's playing this big brother role to all the Slavic peoples. And then you've got the Austro-Hungarian Empire, this massive patchwork thing, just terrified it's all going to fall apart. So you have all this power, but it's all fueled by fear.
All that fear and suspicion led to maybe the most dangerous part of this whole setup, the alliance system. Europe basically split into two giant, heavily armed camps. You had the Central Powers, Germany and Austria-Hungary, and on the other side, the Allied powers, Britain, France, and Russia. Now, these treaties were supposed to keep the peace, but what they really did was create a continental tripwire. An attack on one was now officially an attack on all.
And the fuel for all of this? This incredibly powerful force called nationalism. It was especially potent in the Balkans, that region that was the real flashpoint. It was just a mosaic of different ethnic groups, all stuck inside these big empires like Austria-Hungary, all dreaming of having their own countries. This was the absolute heart of the powder keg.
And that powder keg was about to get its spark. The day was June 28, 1914. The city, Sarajevo.
So the heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, is visiting the city. To Serbian nationalists who hated Austrian rule, this was a massive insult. Now get this, an assassination attempt that morning actually failed. A bomb literally bounced off the Archduke's car. You'd think they'd call it a day, right? Nope, the tour continues. And then, history hinges on this totally absurd, random moment. The Archduke's driver takes a wrong turn, and to fix it, he stops the car right in front of another assassin, Gavrilo Princip, who probably thought his chance was long gone. He doesn't waste a second. He fires his pistol, and just like that, the Archduke and his wife are dead.
This was so much more than a murder. It was the signal. That tripwire we talked about, it just got yanked. And a local crisis in the Balkans was about to set off a chain reaction that would pull the entire continent into war in just a few weeks.
Austria-Hungary is, of course, furious. They are determined to crush Serbia. But first, they go check with their big, powerful ally, Germany. And Germany gives them what's now called the blank check, basically saying, do whatever you want. We've got your back no matter what. It was a total green light for war. It pretty much guaranteed there would be no peaceful way out of this.
And here's where you can just watch the dominoes fall, one after another, so fast. Austria-Hungary sends Serbia this list of demands, an ultimatum so extreme it was basically designed to be rejected. Serbia can't meet every single one, so boom, Austria-Hungary declares war. Then Russia, Serbia's protector, starts mobilizing its giant army. Germany sees that as a direct threat, so it declares war on Russia. Then Germany declares a war on France, Russia's ally, and invades neutral Belgium as a shortcut. Well, that invasion of Belgium triggers the final domino. Britain had a treaty to protect Belgium, so it declares war on Germany. The whole system worked just like it was supposed to, disastrously.
You know, at the very beginning, there were parades. People were actually cheering in the streets. The common belief was that this would be a quick, glorious little war. The soldiers were famously told, "You'll be home by Christmas." They had no idea. They couldn't have been more wrong.
The human cost was just staggering. It's almost impossible to wrap your head around. More than 15 million people,
Soldiers and civilians died. From the fighting, from disease, from starvation. It was a scale of death the world had simply never seen before. And that's because this was a completely new kind of war, powered by the Industrial Revolution. Soldiers weren't in glorious cavalry charges. They were stuck in these disgusting, muddy, rat-filled trenches, facing machine guns, massive artillery shells, and horrifying new weapons like poison gas. Technology had basically industrialized slaughter.
So, what was left after the smoke finally cleared? The world wasn't just changed a little bit, it was shattered. An entire era of history had just been violently wiped away.
The maps of Europe and the Middle East were totally redrawn. Think about this. 4 massive, centuries-old empires, the Russian, the Ottoman, the German, and the Austro-Hungarian, were just gone. They vanished. And in that power vacuum, you get new countries, new tensions, and yeah, the seeds of the next world war.
So, if you take one thing away from this, let it be this. The Great War didn't happen because some archduke got shot. It happened because Europe in the early 20th century was a system just waiting to self-destruct. The tangled alliances, the nationalism, the imperial rivalries, it all created this incredibly unstable structure. The assassination wasn't the cause, it was just the inevitable shock that brought the whole rotten thing crashing down.
Which leaves us with a pretty heavy question to think about. If a system is built in a way that makes a huge conflict almost a certainty, does the specific spark that sets it all off really matter? Or was some kind of catastrophe, in the end, just inevitable?